Hey everybody, it's Rob here. So I had the opportunity to try a pre-launch version of the full Diablo 4 game. I've played through all the campaign, I've played a character up to max level, I've played in the end game, and I had a blast. The game is amazing, it feels smooth to play, it has a super nice atmosphere, the sound is incredible, and just the feeling of just moving your character through the open world is just so cool. Like I've explored pretty much every part of this amazing open world here. I've been running through all the areas. I've been collecting, the altars of Lilith for the bonuses. I've been grinding some dungeons. I've been grinding the Helltide. I've been grinding Nightmare dungeons. I even did some PvP. And I tried a lot of different character builds, lots of different combinations, the visuals and all the skills. They feel so smooth. I hope it's like this on all the other classes as well, but I can only talk for the Barb here because that's the class I've played the most. A little bit Sorc, but Barb has been my main go-to, and yeah, it is so much fun, guys. You will enjoy like hundreds and hundreds of hours of this game when it comes out here in a few days. And basically, what I want to get into here is some of my experience, in particular with the Barb, and also what I believe to be will be one of the strongest, or maybe the strongest barbarian build, especially for speed farming. And I have some very good news for all the barbarian and spin to win enjoyers. Like it is gonna be the Whirlwind Barb. This skill is fantastic. It has been buffed in its damage, but it also received some higher resource requirements. So you will really need to figure out your fury. Like during the level process, it might not feel as good. But this is me talking about the end game, like where we will spend, like the most time long term. And here, Whirlwind, once you solve its fury demand, feels incredible. It's really strong. And I have tried like pretty much all the core skill alternatives. I've tried the Deathblow Barb. I've even tried like some fun builds like Charge and Leap Barb. But all of them are like a bit behind. I feel there's some strong contenders like Bleed Rent build. But Whirlwind really feels the smoothest to me, especially for speed farming. Like for high push, I think we will see some different builds potentially. But for now, the Whirlwind is just so strong. It's so much fun. It's so fast. And I mean, you can already see the skill tree here. But before we get into like the full gear, I just wanna show you like some real quick gameplay, so you get to know, so you know what you get into here. So I can just like go on my horse here. I'm in the PvP zone right now, so maybe we'll get ganked. We'll see. But I basically play triple shells, activate them. Iron skin is not really needed here. And then we just go like this. We start spinning and things die and items drop. It's fantastic. So what you notice here, this is my normal Whirlwind, right? Like I basically always crit, like you see these like 2 million crits. But what I can also do is make a big explosion. Like if I hold my Whirlwind, like right now I'm just holding it, and then I can make an explosion for even more damage. This is thanks to my unique. I'll get into it in a second. But let me just show you real quick, like the destruction. And this is, by the way, on World Tier 4. This is like the highest difficulty. So that was a goblin right there. Boom, he's dead, and he dropped a legendary. So yeah, this is basically how this build works. It's insane movement speed, and it's super fast. We have Wrath of Berserk as well in here, which we can animation cancel, as you saw. And we can just go and basically destroy everything here. Like there was an elite right there, boom, it's dead. And we also have a very strong bleed. Like if I just like spin through here, you notice that the monsters are also bleeding, like quite a bit. See if I can find another elite. It's basically hard to pick up the loot already because we're going so fast. But yeah, this is basically how the build works. I will show some more gameplay at the end, but it's a very strong build. So let's get into the specifics of the skill, the gear, and what's even happening. So we go to skills first, because skills are the most important. They literally define your character. So we have 2 points into Lunging Strike. We just need this to unlock the core section. We max out Whirlwind. We have to take the enhanced Whirlwind. It's going to give us more fury when we hit. That's how we keep our fury, or one of the parts where we keep our fury. We play Furious Whirlwind because we are using a slashing weapon, and this inflicts a bleed damage of our base damage, and this one is really strong. Then we have Pressure Point. It makes all the enemies, or has a chance on lucky hit to make all the enemies vulnerable. We attack and hit quite a lot with Whirlwind, so there's a good chance to make it vulnerable. We have another source of vulnerable from our Paragon, but this is basically the long-term source as well. We max Rallying Cry for the resource generation. This is and movement speed, obviously. This is a very strong skill still. We use Iron Skin. We don't really need it in speed content. Could also play like Charge or Leap. But I really just like to have Iron Skin for some more barrier uptime, which gives you damage again. And whenever, especially in the PvP zone or in some high, difficult dungeon situations, it's really good to have this like, oh shit button. It gives you like a big amount of barrier, and it also gives you more fortify, which we want to be all the time. Then we have Challenging Shout maxed, and you notice here I have a lot of rank contributions. This is really important to get your damage reduction up. You see here 84%, even though the duration was nerfed, we still have a very strong case here for the Challenging Shout. It's really needed to get your damage reduction up. Without it, the Barb feels very squishy. And a good side effect is it gives us more fury, it gives us more life, so super good skill. Then we have the Warcry. We take it with the damage rune. Obviously, like, more damage is always good, and it also buffs your allies. We only use 1 point here. Maybe if you're playing like a full group-orientated build, you want to max this out. But for now, the scaling, it's only 1.5% more damage per rank, so this is not really like the best choice of skill points to max it out, but definitely 1 point. We have stronger options here for DPS. Booming Voice, well, they increase our shout duration. You definitely want to max this, as we are using triple shout. You can jump more points into Raid Leader. It has a very nice synergy with our pants. Whenever we heal beyond 100%, we gain a barrier. And again, we need barrier for some of our damage buffs. We will get into when we go over the gear. For high content, I also recommend to max Guttural Yell for additional damage reduction. Right now I have it in Fury Generation. Here we will always Berserk with our Warcry as we have it permanently, so we get some damage reduction from here and some Fury Generation. But in the end, this only gives us 3, and here we can get 4 per point, so we will take this one in the end. Another thing I forgot to mention, Raid Leader and the Pants also have a nice synergy with Invigorating Fury, which I don't have right now, but if you feel like you need more healing, you can also consider taking points here, as we spent a lot of fury with Unbridled Rage and Whirlwind. You can already see here we drain 40 fury every second. Almost 40 fury, which is a lot. Well, then we are always in melee range, so we take the Pit Fighter. It gives us close damage reduction, increased close damage and distant damage reduction. Really good passive. Same for the No Mercy. It gives us increased critical strike chance against, well, slowed enemies in our case, so this is a really good investment as well. And we have a crazy synergy on Barb with Hamstring. Our Whirlwind applies bleed. You see 40% bleed, and Hamstring basically slows bleeding enemies. So every enemy that we attack with Whirlwind is slowed, and it also procs the No Mercy effect. And it also procs, various item stats, like for example, damage to crowd controlled enemies. Slow is a crowd control, so this one works. Damage to slowed enemies. Sure, if I don't have it right now, but you can also roll this on your weapon, basically. So 1 point in Hamstring, super duper important, guys. Don't miss out. Then we are always fortified through various mechanics on our gear. A little bit comes from our Iron Skin as well, but mostly we get it from our gear and from our Paragons. And well, here we just deal 12% more damage if we are fortified for more than 50%, which we should always be. And we gain some extra fortify as well. Then we're using a 200 weapon, always with our Whirlwind. We're using a slashing weapon, because slashing weapon is basically what's required to use this bleed. So we'll be using a 200 slashing weapon, and this one gives us a multiplicative 1.15 critical strike damage, which is really strong. Then, what would the Whirlwind build be without the Wrath of the Berserk? Like people know this from D3. It's an amazing skill. It gives us more damage, the more fury we spend. And we've already like checked, we're basically getting this like every 1.2, 1.3 seconds, we're spending 50 fury, and it lasts for 5 seconds. So we can get like a pretty significant damage buff. We also get movement speed and even more fury generation to spend even more fury with all the upgrades. And then finally, as our passive, our ultimate passive, key passive, we take the Unbridled Rage. It gives, it makes us spend more fury, but it also gives you 2.23 multiplicative damage, which is insane. It's literally so good. So then let's go over the gear. Our helm cooldown is really important here. You definitely want the cooldown to get the shouts cooldowns down. So we use cooldown here on every possible roll. Basically, we want cooldown, and we use Whirlwind Pulse in enemies. This it doesn't trigger as much. It seems to have some randomness attached to it or some ICD. I'm not sure yet. Need to do more testing on this. But if it pulls, it's really good, guys. It's basically a pixel pull. But it only happens like once every 10 seconds. You could barely see it in the in-game footage there. Then we have the Doom Armor of Disobedience. This one gives us an armor stack basically every time we attack. It's insane. It gives you so much additional armor. It's really strong. And our bleeds proc it all the time basically. Then we have the Gore Devastating Grips. This is like the fiery explosion that I talked about earlier. And this is pretty much the build enabling item. I mean, it's still viable before you find this item, but with these gloves, you will basically like have an entire different playstyle, because you can now accumulate damage on trash monsters with Whirlwind. Like you keep spinning, you hold down right click or the button where you have Whirlwind bound, and you keep spinning. And then once you see an elite, you release the button, like you let go of right click, and then it releases all this accumulated damage from every monster that you hit. 60% of that, it's going to release it as a fire explosion. So this one doesn't scale with your physical damage, so physical damage is still good, but it's not the most important stat now, because it's fire damage, this explosion. But this item allows you to kill elites and bosses and even like high trash mobs or objectives, like really efficient. Only downside of this bracer, it doesn't have crit chance. With this gloves, it doesn't have crit chance, but the unique effect more than makes up for that. And it has some nice 4 ranks into Whirlwind. Then we have our pants. I already talked about this earlier. We get healing from our skills. We get healing from here. Again, in higher content, you want to put more points into here. And we get healing from Invigorating Fury. You can spend more points in here as well, if you feel like you need more healing. And then this one, if it heals you above your maximum life, you also get Barrier. And the Barrier enables your damage buff from Conceded. So on the boots, we want Fury cost reduction, which is really important to maintain our Fury. You want movement speed, obviously, to move faster. And there's also second movement speed stat after killing elites. And then all stats is my choice here, just to unlock some additional Paragon nodes. We have the weapon. You definitely want crit damage here, because you get a high crit chance on all your Whirlwind. You basically have 100% crit chance with your Whirlwind. It's really strong, so you want to stack as much crit damage as possible. I'm also like looking for core skill, close damage, and most of all, vulnerable damage is the most important stat, because it seems to be a separate multiplier to all of your damage again. And we will make everything vulnerable with our Paragon board later. Yeah, this one here, also crit damage implicit, vulnerable damage, all stats, main stat, which also gives us ×2 damage right now. Really strong. It also inflicts 30% of all the damage we did with Whirlwind, again as a bleed. So more choices of bleed, we get a good bleed damage increase. And a very nice synergy as well with this chest, because it basically is another source of bleed, so it gives another stack of this chest, which is insane. Oh, and on the chest, I forgot, there is Shout skill cooldown, which is super important. And there's also Challenging Shout ranks, which we talked about earlier, gives us basically 4% more damage reduction per point, stacking additively with the base. So in reality, this chest, these 4 ranks, almost give me 50% damage reduction. Because I go from like, what is it, like 68 to like 84 or something. Like, it's really good. Yeah, then second weapon basically looks like the other ones, like crit implicit, crit roll, close damage, vulnerable damage, main stat, really good. Last weapon here, we use the Limitless Rage. We are able to generate a lot of fury with our shouts, so we can just shout and have Wrath of the Berserk, and all the fury generation sources always gets us over the max, and everything that goes over our maximum fury gives us even more damage. So that's insane. Yeah, shout skills generate more fury. On the rings here, really important. Crit chance, fury generation, vulnerable damage, crit damage, really good stuff. Here we have resource generation, vulnerable damage, crit damage, and then the shout cooldown one. This reduces our shout cooldowns by a ton. So yeah, this is really strong, guys. Next we have is the Edgemaster. Amulet rolls, stat rolls are really important because you can get cooldown here. You can also get a double cooldown roll. You can get shout skill cooldown and normal cooldown. I was not lucky enough to find an amulet like that. It's probably going to be one of the rarest, or at least on Barbarian class, highest sought after items in the game. So yeah, this one is hard to get. Plus 3 ranks to all defensive skills, also really important. Gives us another 12% damage reduction additively to our base. So again, like another 25% damage reduction or something, depending on where you start. And obviously, we always start spinning at maximum fury, so we get even more benefits from this. Always have the multiplier, pretty much. Then on the expertise, we're using slashing. Oh wait, I didn't have the slashing weapon. But yeah, we're basically using a slashing weapon on Whirlwind. You can change your weapons here, by the way. It's a bit hidden, like you have to press middle mouse to change it. So there we go, slashing weapon, and we get the nice benefit on the expertise here. We get another 20% bleed afflicted as base, so this is another stack of our armor, it's another damage stack, it's even more bleed damage, and another bleed multiplier. And then in our technique slot, we use the 200x expertise because we make everything vulnerable, and this is a 1.15 multiplier to vulnerable targets. And this brings us to our Paragon Boards. Sure, this is a lot to get into. I might make a separate video about the Paragon Boards. I'm just going to show you the quick overview here. So this is the starter board. We use close damage, territorial, really strong. We go the damage route. Then we have Weapons Master board. Here we go for the Marshal to get us even more shout cooldowns. Hunter Killer, GG elite damage, really good stuff. We have the Warbringer, this gives us the Fortify all the time. We basically always spend Fury with Unbridled Rage and Whirlwind, and we get a lot of Fury. Guarded Advance, more Fortify, really good stuff. Hungering Fury, more Max Fury. This is just a note to take because I use it to get the Fury on kill, which is then amplified with all your Fury generation, so you get even more Fury, which you need. Yeah, Raw Power, here the glyph is the vulnerable. This one makes everything vulnerable for 3 seconds. Really strong glyph, gives us a lot of vulnerable damage. And together with our ability, this one, it can extend the vulnerable or proc vulnerable again on the targets. It's not 100% reliable, but for speed farming, you always basically have it with this glyph. So yeah, really fucking strong. Next one here, we use damage while fortified. We're always fortified. We gain some damage reduction with this glyph. Really good, 54 willpower in range. And here we have all the like vulnerable multipliers too, so really strong, more vulnerable damage to all of us basically. Next board here is Bonebreaker. This one was Decimator, by the way. In Bonebreaker, we use crit damage with core skills, really good. Like our core skills just get more crit damage. Whirlwind is a core skill. It also generates Fury on crit, which is probably even more important. So GG Fury stores, 49 dex in range here, really strong. And then on this last board, I'll probably be using the Emperor later, but I need to do some more side quest content, and I think there's also some Ulcers of Lilith that give Paragon points. So if I finish my renown, I can populate this glyph, and maybe I will have to get rid of like some of these passives here. We'll see. But it's definitely going to be worth it. For now, I don't even have the dex requirement. I'm working on this. But yeah, it's basically more crit damage here. More crit damage, more crit damage. Really good board here. Flawless technique. So yeah, and then again, close damage reduction and even more damage. So yeah, that's been the Whirlwind. I have separate videos coming, guys. speed farming, nightmare dungeons. Like I've been close to completing, like I did like high 90s. I've yet to do 100. We'll see. But yeah, really fucking good for speed farming and also for leveling. Like I'll show you how I leveled as well. Lots and lots of more videos coming, guys. I hope you guys all enjoyed. You will have a very good time when Diablo 4 comes out. I'm very sure of it. I'll be streaming a lot. I'll be posting more videos. So if you like what you see here, make sure to follow, subscribe, and I will see you guys soon. Rob2628 over and out. Take care, guys.